I sing of arms and of a man. His fate had made him fugitive. He was the first to journey from the coasts of Troy as far as Italy and the Lavinian shores. Across the lands and waters he was battered, beneath the violence of high ones, for the savage Juno's unforgetting anger, and many sufferings were his in war, until he brought a city into being, and carried in his gods to Latium. From this have come the Latin race, the lords of Alba, and the ramparts of high Rome. Tell me the reason, Muse. What was the wound to her divinity, so hurting her that she, the queen of gods, compelled a man remarkable for goodness to endure so many crises, meet so many trials? Can such resentment hold in the minds of gods? There was an ancient city they called Carthage, a colony of refugees from Tyre, a city facing Italy, but far away from Tiber's mouth, extremely rich, and, when it came to waging war, most fierce. This land was Juno's favorite, it is said, most dear than her own Samos. Here she kept her chariot and armor. Even then the goddess had this hope and tender plan, for Carthage to become the capital of nations, if the fates would just consent. But she had heard that, from the blood of Troy, a race had come that some day would destroy the citadels of Tyre. From it a people would spring, wide-ruling kings, men proud in battle, and destined to annihilate her Libya. The fates had so decreed, and Saturn's daughter, in fear of this, remembering the old war that she had long since carried on at Troy, for her beloved Argos, and, indeed, the causes of her bitterness, her sharp and savage hurt, had not yet left her spirit, for deep within her mind lie stored the judgment of Paris and the wrong done to her scorned beauty. The breed she hated, and the honors that had been given ravished Ganymede, was angered even more. For this she kept far off from Latium the Trojan remnant, left by the Greeks and pitiless Achilles. For long years were cast across all waters, fate-driven, wandering from sea to sea. It was so hard to found the race of Rome. With Sicily scarce out of sight, the Trojans had gladly spread their canvas on the sea, turning the salt foam with their brazen prows. Then Juno, holding fast within her heart the everlasting insult, asked herself, Am I, defeated, simply to stop trying, unable to turn back the Trojan king from Italy? No doubt, the fates won't have it, but Pallas, was she powerful enough to set the Argive fleet on fire, to drown the crewmen in the deep, for an outrage done by only one infuriated man? Ajax, Oileus' son, and she herself, could fling Jove's racing lightning from the clouds, and smash their galleys, sweep the sea with tempests. Then Ajax's breath was flame from his pierced chest. She caught him up within a whirlwind. She impaled him on a pointed rock. But I, the queen of gods, who strive along as both the sister and the wife of Jove, have warred so many years against a single nation. For after this will anyone adore the majesty of Juno, or, before her altars, pay her honor, pray to her. Then, burning, pondering, the goddess reaches Aeolia, the motherland of storms, a womb that always teems with raving south winds. In his enormous cave, King Aeolus restrains the wrestling winds, loud hurricanes. He tames and sways them with his chains in prison. They rage in indignation at their cages. The mountain answers with a mighty roar. Lord Aeolus sits in his high citadel. He holds his scepter, and he soothes their souls, and calms their madness. Were it not for this, then surely they would carry off the sea, and lands in steepest heaven, sweeping them across the emptiness. But fearing that, the all-able Father hid the winds within dark caverns, heaping over them high mountains, and he assigned to them a king who should, by Jove's sure edict, understand just when to jail and when, commanded, to set free. Then Juno, suppliant, appealed to him. You, Aeolus, to whom the king of men and father of the gods has given this, to pacify the waves, or, with the wind, to incite them, over the Tyrrhenian, now sails my enemy, a race that carries the beaten household gods of Ilium to Italy. Hammer your winds to fury, and ruin their swamped ships, or scatter them and fling their crews piecemeal across the seas. I have twice 7 nymphs with splendid bodies. The loveliest of them is Deiopeia, and I shall join her to you in sure marriage, and name her as your own, that she may spend all of her years with you, to make you father of fair sons, for such service, such return. And Aeolus replied, O Queen, your task is to discover what you wish, and mine to act at your command. For you have won this modest kingdom for me, and my scepter and Jove's good will. You gave me leave to lean beside the banquets of the gods, and you have made me lord of tempests and of clouds. His words were done. He turned his lance head, struck the hollow mountain on its side. The winds, as in a column, hurry through the breach. They blew across the earth in a tornado, together, Ereus, Notus, and, with tempest on tempest, Africus attacked the sea. They churned the very bottom of the deep, and rolled vast breakers toward the beaches. Cries of men and creaking of the cables rise. Then, suddenly, the cloud banks snatch away the sky and daylight from the Trojans' eyes. Black night hangs on the waters, heavens thunder, the frequent lightning glitters in the air. Everything intends quick death to men. At once Aeneas's limbs fall slack with chill. He groans and stretches both hands to the stars. He calls aloud, O 3 and 4 times blessed were those who died before their father's eyes, beneath the walls of Troy. Strongest of all the Danaans, O Diomedes, why did your right hand not spill my lifeblood? Why did I not fall upon the Ilian fields, there where ferocious Hector lies, pierced by Achilles' javelin, where the enormous Sarpedon now is still, and Simois has seized and sweeps beneath his waves so many helmets and shields and bodies of the brave? Aeneas hurled these words. The hurricane is howling from the north. It hammers full against his sails. The seas are heaved to heaven. The oars are cracked. The prow shears off. The waves attack broadside. Against his hull the swell now shatters in a heap, mountainous, steep. Some sailors hang upon a wave crest. Others stare out at gaping waters, land that lies below the waters, surges that seethe with sand. And then the south wind snatches up 3 ships, and spins their keels against the hidden rocks, those rocks that rising in mid-sea are called, by the Italians, altars, like a monstrous spine stretched along the surface of the sea. Meanwhile the east winds wheels another 3, off from the deep and terrible to sea, against the shoals and shifting silt, against the shallows, girding them with mounds of sand. Before Aeneas's eyes a massive breaker smashes upon its stern the ship that carries the Lycian crewman led by true Orontes. The helmsman is beaten down. He is whirled headlong. 3 times at that same spot the water twist, and wheel the ship around until a swift whirlpool was swallowed in beneath the swell. And here and there upon the wide abyss, among the waves are swimmers, weapons, planks, and Trojan treasure. Now the tempest takes the sturdy galleys of Ilioneus, and brave Achates, now the ships of Aubus, and many-yeared Alettus. All receive their enemy, the sea, through loose joints, along their sides, and through their gaping seams. But Neptune felt the fracas and the frenzy, and shaken by the unleashed winds, the wrenching of the still currents from the deep seabed, he raised his tranquil head above the surface, and he can see the galleys of Aeneas scattered across the waters, with the Trojans dismembered by the waves and fallen heavens. Her brother did not miss the craft and wrath of Juno. Catching that, he called up both the east wind and the west. His words are these: Has pride of birth made you so insolent? So, winds, you dare to mingle sky and land, heave high such masses without my command? Whom I, but no, let me first calm the restless swell. You shall yet atone, another time, with different penalties for these your crimes. But now be off, and tell your king these things, that not to him, but me, has destiny allotted the dominion of the sea, and my fierce trident. The enormous rocks are his, your home, east wind. Let Aeolus be lord of all that lies within that hall, and rule in that pent prison of the winds. So Neptune speaks, and, quicker than his tongue, brings quiet to the swollen waters, sets the gathered clouds to flight, calls back the sun. Together, then, Chimaeroa and Triton, thrusting, dislodge the ship from jagged crags. But now the god himself takes up his trident to lift the galleys, and he clears a channel across the vast sandbank. He stills the sea and glides along the waters on light wheels. And just as, often, when a crowd of people is rocked by a rebellion, and the rabble rage in their minds, and firebrands and stones fly fast, for fury finds his weapons, if, by chance, they see a man remarkable for righteousness and service, they are silent and stand attentive, and he controls their passion by his words and cools their spirits. So all the clamor of the sea subsided after the father, gazing on the waters and riding under cloudless skies, had guided his horses, let his willing chariot run.